Hello again. In this video, we're going to be talking about the New Testament and the New Covenant. Now, are the New Testament and the New Covenant the same thing? No, they're not, although most people conflate the two for different reasons. One primary reason being that most New Version Bibles change the word testament to covenant. So right away, your doctrine is destroyed by the modern versions. Another reason is that replacement theologians think the church is Israel, and so they think that we are under the new covenant. So they put themselves under the new covenant that they read in Hebrews 8. And one final reason, there's probably others, but one final reason is that the King James Bible sometimes uses those words in a similar fashion, and people just think that they're synonymous from being used interchangeably. Though they are distinctly different. And the difference is the New Testament, like the Old Testament, applies to all mankind, whereas the Old Covenant and the New Covenant are for Israel. And the Bible tells us in Hebrews 9:16 that a testament is of force after men are dead. So that's important. So you can have a covenant, you can enter into a covenant without someone dying, but a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. That's what it tells us in Hebrews 9:16. We know from reading this passage in Hebrews 9 that Jesus is the testator of the New Testament. He is the one that died to bring it into force. He said in Matthew 26:28, "For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for the remission of sins." And we see that Jesus is the man that died to bring in the New Testament. If someone must die to make a testament of force, who was it that died to establish the Old Testament? That's something no one ever talks about. No one ever, you just kind of throw the testament, covenant, you throw that stuff all around. And you have the verse in Hebrews 9:16 that says that the testament is only of force after men are dead. So the question is, well, who died to bring the Old Testament into force? Did you ever think about that? The answer is Adam. Once Adam sinned and died, that put the Old Testament, or God's moral law, into effect. And so death passed upon all men, as it says in Romans 5:12. Paul explains the operation of this testament in the life of a person in Romans 7:5-11. We'll read that. It says, "For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, Thou shalt not covet." So here he's talking about the moral law. "But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died. And the commandment which was ordained to life I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me." So ever since Adam, man has been under the Old Testament. Once we become aware that we are sinners by the knowledge of God's law, we die spiritually and fall under the Old Testament and are in need of being brought into that New Testament through trusting Jesus Christ, who died for the redemption of the transgressions under the First Testament. So the Old Testament did not start with the Ten Commandments. It didn't start there when they were given on Mount Sinai to Moses. That's just when it was written down. Now, the Old Covenant, which includes the Old Testament, was given to Israel at Mount Sinai. When the Bible refers to the dedication of the Old Testament in Hebrews 9, or the reading of the Old Testament in 2 Corinthians 3, it's appropriate because the Old Testament is included in there. Just understand that it didn't start there. So the old covenant was given to Israel and included not only moral law, but many civil and ceremonial laws and ordinances. And that is why Hebrews 8, God says he's going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and Judah, because the old covenant was made with them. It is the everlasting covenant mentioned in Jeremiah 32:40 and Ezekiel 37:28. It's the covenant he will make with them mentioned in Romans 11:27. Notice the new covenant is only used 4 times in the entire Bible. In Jeremiah 31:31 and in Hebrews. Isn't that strange? It's only mentioned, with reference to the Jews. Now, 6 times the New Testament is used, and 5 of those are outside the book of Hebrews. Why not just throw New Covenant in there? That's what the modern versions do. They just, New Covenant, New Testament, it's the same thing. It's just, we'll just make it all say New Covenant. Well, it's because they're not the same thing. The New Testament is for everyone. The New Covenant is for Israel. Now, to be clear, the Old Covenant is no longer in effect. People ask me that, well, if the New Covenant isn't in effect, do you believe the Old Covenant is in effect? Well, the answer is no. Jesus did away with the Old Covenant with his death, just like the Old Testament. So his blood is the basis of the New Covenant, and Israel as a people is blinded to the basis of the New Covenant, which is Jesus Christ. And this is not to be confused with individual Jews who get saved and become Christians under the New Testament. The New Covenant will go into effect as mankind enters in the millennial reign of Christ, after Israel as a people recognize and accept Jesus as their Savior. And I'll go into how we see flesh and blood Jews identified with Jewish tribes in the millennium in upcoming videos. So again, remember, the Old Testament, New Testament, something that applies to all mankind. Old Covenant, New Covenant, applicable to physical nation of Israel. All right, I'll see you in the next video.